What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Variant the Podcast. And a new year is almost upon us, Tim.
Yes, it is. And this will actually be a Happy New Year episode for all of you. We're actually recording this early because, as we've told you all many times, we go on break for the last couple of weeks of the year. So we want to make sure you guys had content all the way through our return at the beginning of January. So for all of you watching and listening, Happy New Year. Hope you guys had a great Christmas and holiday weekend and season. We are going to talk about today, to wrap up our year.
What are we talking about? Wait, what are we talking about? What are we talking about?
You know, it's a new year.
So we're talking about new
1
stuff
year is dead.
Wait, it's dead?
It's dead. It's dead to me.
Who killed it?
2020. Murdered it before it even having a chance to live. So we're going to cover our favorite parts of our favorite things, the best of 2021 in Geekdom. And of course, that's a heavy lift every year. I felt like this was not as heavy a lift as some previous years.
It's true. It's true.
So it was a little bit less stressful.
But there's still, because again, we're doing 3 out of like, on Disney Plus alone, there was like, what, 15 things? You know what I mean?
So for my three, I narrowed it down to 5.
Unbelievable. Well, so we got 3 and then honorable mention, because I have 3 main, and then there's a bunch on my head where I'm like, well, that too. Yeah. There's some that like I'm still shuffling back and forth, but there's one that I know you picked, so I didn't pick it purely because you picked it. So I went to my next one in the line. So yeah, we'll see.
I mean, I might be going like 1, 2A, 2B, 3A.
Now, do you want to do it in order or just the 3 top, or like literally like 3, 2, 1?
I mean, it will probably graduate up the chain to the best, to the favorite.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
Naturally, organically, one might say.
I guess I'll leave the best one for last.
And it's important.
My favorite one for last.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's important for us to add, and that's why one of the reasons I brought up the fact that we are pre-recording this, is we have not yet seen Spider-Man No Way Home. And the Book of Boba Fett that comes out the very first episode. Yeah, it's
that's a 2022
December
thing.
31st. So
yeah,
but those will not be on the list for that reason.
We get 1 episode in 2021, the other 6 in 2022.
Yes.
So I'm sure that'll be on my list next year.
Yeah, for 2022, we'll be talking about that stuff plenty coming
Star
early
Wars
January.
Is going to probably be very heavy next year because we're getting Kenobi.
Yeah,
we're getting Book of Boba Fett. Obviously, does Ahsoka come out in 2022 as well?
I don't know the answer to that. They really haven't said a ton.
Well, Mando season 2 or 3 rather comes out.
We're getting Andor at some point. I don't know when.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. We're getting a massive dose of MCU next year as well. I believe there's 5 films coming out.
At this point, it's like the norm now though, right?
It is now.
It's just like with the Disney Plus shows fully ramped up, the second year of like.
Well, I'm just talking about theatrical release films
for the MCU.
Yeah.
So we got the Multiverse of Madness.
We got Multiverse of Madness. We got Loki, or not Loki. Thor: Love and Thunder. We got Black Panther.
Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda Forever. We've got. I
didn't know that comes out next year. That's 2022.
Yeah.
Oh wow, good.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
And then we've got. There's 2 more. It was 1 or 2 more.
And that's just the MCU because we know the Batman comes out.
Yeah, that's just through summer, I believe.
Oh my God, next year's a heavy year. The Batman, Black Adam.
The Batman. Black Adam in the summer.
I think Flash is 2023.
We're also getting the Super Pets,
Aquaman, or is Aquaman 2023?
Aquaman is 2023, I think.
Fury of the Gods is 2022.
Man,
I don't know.
Without this in front of me,
lots of stuff.
It's like impossible to keep track of it all.
Point is, 2021 was a big year nonetheless. Like you said, maybe not as big as some previous years, but they were still. I mean, it was the launch of the Disney Plus Marvel side of things. Yeah, kicked off with WandaVision. We got WandaVision. We got the Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, and now Hawkeye.
Yep.
So a lot of stuff.
That you're just naming like Disney Plus MCU. That's not even touching on. We got Snyderverse in 2021. Finally arrived. Bad Batch. There was a lot.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, a lot of great comics landed in 2021. Astonishing Times came into the world. Well, that's 2021.
That's how
that's not going to be on our list because we're not that.
Yeah, right. Astonishing Times was my number one.
It was Arris' favorite book. No reason at all.
No bias. But I kind of divvied it up to where I did 1 comic book, 1 TV show, and 1 movie. I felt like that was
tried to do that.
I feel like that was the most fair way to do it, just where I kind of hit all the gamuts, all the little spots of everything, all the genres.
I think that's a fine way to do it.
Yeah.
It's a fine fine way to put it together.
But it's still hard, especially with comics. Like, comic was really, really hard, but
comics was actually shockingly easy for me.
Was it really?
It was really easy. I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of great books came out. A lot of great stories, new characters, both on Marvel and DC side. But I kind of pretty much, it was pretty easy. I knew what was my go-to books for the year.
Right. Yeah, because Tom Taylor has been doing a great job on Nightwing. There's just been a lot of good ones. I think Tynan's been doing a really good job on Batman.
Well, he was.
He was, yeah.
Not on it
Marvel's been putting out a lot of good. Actually, this year, I kind of been complaining for the last few years that DC has been kind of winning in the comic book category, at least for me, and Marvel's on the other end, where like Marvel's like, I think I enjoyed more Marvel books this year than DC books. So, spoiler alert, maybe the comic I picked is a Marvel book.
I will say, it feels like Marvel is doing, in terms of volume, Marvel is doing a lot more. Now, that might just be perception.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I didn't actually go and look. But Marvel's been doing a lot of stuff on the comic book side, because it's not just, the typical superhero side. They've also got all the Star Wars books.
Yes.
And other titles that they're breaking out.
For sure.
So it feels like Marvel is very, very busy this year.
Them having Star Wars and them doing a lot of Star Wars books and some pretty good ones at that definitely makes them seem like they have more, because when you count like, the 20, 30 books that DC's coming out, that's just DC, and you have to do the same thing for Marvel Heroes. Star Wars is different, but it's still Marvel.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, because that's another one that almost made the list for me, which was War the Bounty Hunters, but just missed it.
It's right there, right on the edge. All right. Well, so we're going to get into our favorite things in geekdom of 2021, and we're going to back and forth. But after we're done, I want to say this up front and not at the end. For you guys, we want you guys to go into the comments and tweet to us and let us know what your favorite things were in 2021. Favorite movies, television shows, comics, graphic novels, books, whatever. Let us know what your list of best of 2021 is.
Video
as well.
games.
Video. Oh yeah, we always forget gaming because neither of us are big on it.
I tell you what though, I want a freaking PS5. I want one. They're still really hard to get.
You've been speaking that into the universe.
Dude, especially for
it was the PS4 first, and that didn't happen. Because then it was now it's the PS5.
Because Sony has all the Spider-Man games, and
there's
exclusive.
A little company. It's called Amazon.
You can't. No, that's what I'm saying. You cannot get a PS5. They are hard to get.
My brother Josh, who's a big gamer, he actually is. He's an Xbox guy. He's not a PS. PlayStation guy. He's been trying to get the new Xbox for months and
They're
months
incredibly hard
and
to get.
months, and he's been like freaking out because he is big into gaming, and he has been desperate to get his hands on one, and he just cannot get one. So it's tough. Electronics in general have just gotten really, really tough.
Well, it's kind of like video games. It's a huge thing. It's
anything's in high demand.
It's a huge. I mean, the video game space is bigger than the comic space, even especially globally. So it's just as soon as they get in, they're like gone. It's like expensive sneakers, like the sneakerheads. Those things are just lines. Wait for days. You got people like this is their business. Yeah. They like buy it, flip it, or whatever. So it's just hard for us people who casually want to play a game.
First world problems.
Yeah, right.
We got them for days.
I mean, you can get PS5, but you're spending close to $1,000 on the eBay.
Oh,
so I'm not. Which is crazy because they're already like what $400 or $500 retail, so they're double aftermarket. Sure. It's nuts.
Yeah, that's a
which is also another thing. I know we're kind of going off topic here, but do you remember when consoles were like $200?
Yes, I do.
Like I remember,
but to be fair, $200 went a lot further at that time. Just generally speaking.
Yeah, it's just weird that I remember getting
we started talking like we were born in like 1943. No, do you remember?
I remember getting the N64.
When you could play board games for 15 cents.
Wow. No, I remember getting the 64 for the N64 for my birthday. It was probably like $150 or something at the time. And then like the Wii came out the GameCube came out after that. But then like the Wii came out and I was like close to 200 or 200. And they just keep like, 150, 200, 250, 300. 350, 400, 500.
The one thing I feel like didn't change much in terms of price on gaming is the actual games themselves.
They've gone up.
They've always seemed to, even from when I was a kid in like the late 80s, early 90s, And they were always like
50 to
right
60
at
bucks.
$30 to $50, 30 to 60 in that range. Even like just the Nintendo cartridges.
Yeah.
You know, the classic NES, when you would cut, it was like
the thing
$40, $50.
The games are more annoying for me personally because it's like the console, controllers, accessories, it's a thing you're buying. You're buying a freaking unit pieces, like a physical thing. Yeah. Most people now don't even buy physical copies of games because it's inconvenient. Just like movies. True. With gaming, you want it all in your library in the cloud, you know, and stuff like that. So you buy them digitally and you just buy a system with a lot of memory or you get a store memory for it. So it's like, why is the digital copy just as much as the physical copy?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, especially because I'm a physical copy guy. I like having something tangible in case anything goes wrong, right? It's the same thing with like movies. People like to get everything digitally. I'm like, well, my favorite movies, I don't do it with everything, but like my favorite movies, I want the hard copy. You know, if the internet goes down or whatever and I want to be able to watch it, I don't know, the apocalypse, you know, whatever. Who knows?
So, we don't have electricity in the apocalypse, okay?
Yeah, that's right. We're bartering DVDs and Blu-rays. You know, I used to like that, but now you buy, or at least a couple of them that I bought recently, I don't buy a ton, but for my kids, you buy the game, you get the physical copy of the game, you put it in, and you got to download everything off the internet, and then it requires internet access for you to be able to play it anyway. So it's like, well, what's the point of the physical copy?
Well, yeah, I guess it just depends what aspect of the game you want to play, though. Like
unless you just have like horrid internet and downloading it would take like 2 days. Like maybe if you live rurally or something like that.
It's the same argument I had though with movies though. It's like if you're gonna buy, because I get physical copies, you're paying for like them printing it, the plastic, the cartridge, like you're paying for the physical thing that had to be made. And, but like literally with digital anything, they make that asset once, they put it to a cloud and just let people buy it. So it's like there was no labor, there was no middleman. You did it one time.
Why do you think they wanted to change it to this? It's so much cheaper.
Exactly.
The overhead is dramatically reduced. And they make way more money on the bottom line. But
I think it would draw more the sales up though too. So they're like, if you were to like physical copies are $60, digital copies are like 40. Most people would just go to the digital because you're saying
it's already a supply and demand issue. Like they don't make nearly as many DVD and Blu-ray Well, I say DVD. Nobody. Well, people still buy.
Some people, people buy VHS still.
But yeah, that's crazy. No, they don't even make VHS anymore.
Well, I mean, like to collect them. Like people would buy a record, not to like actually like
you crazy. But like Blu-rays, they don't produce as many physical copy Blu-rays and DVDs as they used to because the demand isn't there.
For sure.
So it's like the prices are going to be lower because it's a supply and demand thing. The digital side, it's just the convenience. They know that people are going to buy it anyway, so they just keep the same price.
It's true, especially if like
you might save like $1.
You want to watch a movie when it comes out, and you're like, I don't want to go Walmart right now. I don't want to go to Target.
Yeah,
I'll just buy right
You're
here.
paying for the convenience.
Anyway,
that was a sidetrack.
Yeah, that was a sidetrack.
Well, let's dive into our lists. So you go first.
All right,
hit me with your very first favorite thing of 2021.
All right, so like I said, I divvied this up. I did comics, TV show, movies. We're gonna kick this off with comics because first and foremost, Variant is a comic show, right? So my favorite comic book, I had lots. It was really hard. But the one that resonated with me the most was King in Black by Donny Cates. Loved it. Loved it. I mean, that's
a big one.
That's a big one. The other one, one of my other favorite ones was Thor, which is just kind of a continuation where it kind of rolled over into 2022, but it was fantastic, also by Cates. But man, did freaking Cates do a great job with King in Black. Really was one of my favorite crossover events in comic books in recent history in general, like whether you're talking about DC or Marvel or what have you. The way, he made Venom a god, the cool, unique, just because I say all the time with everything he does, the most fun thing about his writing is it feels like he just does stuff that you would think of with your friends. So like, wouldn't it be cool if we gave like Venom like this really cool like battle axe and like we bring in like the power cosmic and all that stuff, and it's just, and he does it in a really cool way. He tied like the King in Black Null to the origin of freaking Venom and the symbiotes, literally rewriting the history of the symbiotes and kind of adding in a really cool way what Todd McFarlane and the other co-creators of Venom did so long ago. So I really, really enjoyed it, especially the main book, because that's another thing. Most of the spinoffs, like the crossover and tie-in issues, were also really good.
They were a ton of them, and they were all interesting. And they all played a much broader role in the overall
sure.
Marvel universe, as far as, it set several things out on its course, even to where, leading into 2022, some of these books.
Which says a lot, because all those spinoffs and tie-in issues were not written by Cates. They just kind of had to go out. So it seems like everyone was really in good synergy with the direction Marvel was going, as this was a publisher. It was like crossing over in all the Marvel books. And then the ramifications of it are still happening right now. We got the brand new Venom. Eddie's son Dylan is now Venom at the end of that. Eddie is now the current symbiote god, if you will. He's the new King in Black, and he's kind of cleaning up the mess that Null did, trying to be like, fix the bad name that Null gave the symbiotes, and trying to show the universe we're not really that, we were bad because our leader was bad. I'm the new king now, and I'm gonna make everything right. And it's even going over into Cates' new Hulk book, which makes all the sense in the world, because this guy he's written like Thanos, freaking Thor, Venom, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Doctor Strange. Like, it's so funny. Like, he's already written like several of the heavy hitters in freaking Marvel. He's just like, where's he gonna go after Doctor Strange? I mean, after Hulk, sorry, because he's currently on Hulk. It's like Strange.
He can do anything he wants, I think, at this point.
I feel like it's a matter of time before he gets the big one, which is Spider-Man. That's like the end all be all for Marvel, right? That's their guy. So it's only a matter of time. I mean, he kind of already did it in the Venom/Carnage stuff he did, because Spider-Man was in it, but he hasn't had a Spider-Man title yet. So I feel like that's
like the Amazing Spider-Man,
right? Or anything like that. Anyway. Really, really good stuff. We see the ramifications coming up in his new Hulk run, where we see the Celestial that Tony Stark got from the King in Black storyline, that he still has it, and that's a really big key component that the Hulk is after, and he's using it. So I'm loving how since he's done so many books, he's done Doctor Strange, he's doing the Hulk, he's done Venom, how he's kind of tying it all together, and I'm very curious to see where this goes, because I imagine it's all going to lead to some other big event, especially with Thor and all that stuff, and we're kind of seeing...
You can feel that coming,
We see like the Thanos with the Infinity Hammer in his Thor book and all this stuff, and it's just flashback still. We haven't seen like where it's really going, so I'm very curious to see where it all heads. And because of that, because basically King in Black was really good and kind of tied everything he did in Marvel is doing together, it's my favorite book of 2021.
I can totally understand. I actually struggled with that one
a
little bit. It's like, well, because it perfectly and organically ties into mine.
Oh, does it?
My favorite comic of 2021, which is Thor, the Thor title.
There we go.
That's 2 years running. The Thor title has been my favorite comic of the year.
And it took like a 3-month break this year, too.
It did. And because of King in Black and the events that went on there.
Working on the Hulk.
And they were working on the Hulk. What I find interesting about what was going on with Cates and Thor and the King in Black story, because he also had Venom, of course. He had Venom first. Is Al Ewing was writing Immortal Hulk, right? And Cates was writing Venom. Al Ewing wraps up Immortal Hulk with issue 50.
Yes.
Literally swaps roles with Cates. Cates takes Hulk, and Ewing took over Venom.
Really funny.
Which is really interesting, because they worked, pretty closely throughout, through the whole King in Black event.
Right.
But you could just see there's like a seamless synergistic relationship between those two, and like the vibe that they're going with and what they're doing. But the other, that's my 1B for the comics, which is the Immortal Hulk finale, number 50. That was my second favorite, like just below Thor, comic of the year. Ewing it's very difficult. Of course, the rare instance where a creative team gets to write 50 straight issues.
Yes.
And tell a long form
nowadays,
story.
It's not a thing that happens often.
It's much more rare now. And what's even harder is really bringing it home in a solid way. And issue 50, after such a great run with the Immortal Hulk title as a whole for years, he really stuck the landing. And he introduced some new things, and he tied up some loose ends, and he set some new things out on the course so that Cates could kind of just pull some of the toys out of the toy box and use them for the direction that he's going. So that was really good. But Thor has just been solid every single issue.
It's a really fun title.
Not a single issue for me felt like it was fluff or fill, or they weren't sure what to do next, and they're just trying to get to the next issue or the one after that. Every single issue feels meaningful. It feels substantive. There's the way that he is telling this really cool story with cool action beats, and like you said, where he's throwing in those give Thor a battle axe and all this kind of thing. Where he's going head to head with Beta Ray Bill, and they're clashing with as he becomes not only Odin power infused, but also he's got the power cosmic.
Introducing Donald Blake in a cool new way.
Yes, I mean just all the different things that he did. So he's doing all these cool things that you would kind of sit around and be like, oh, it'd be cool. But then he's also doing this great dissection of Thor as a character, and really kind of dismantling him as not like what the MCU did, where they, what you've seen in previous, where it's the younger Thor struggling with leadership. This is now King Thor struggling with this idea of how do I protect my people? How do I be a good king and do what's right? And, and without becoming my father sort of thing, because he's got the whole feud with Odin going on. And all the different pieces that he's introducing there. So just all the different elements of what Cates is doing with Thor, how that's playing into the broader Marvel universe, I just think is so smart, and it's just been so rock solid and consistent all the way through. I'm really excited to see what he does now with this Hulk title. It's a 6-issue mini, so it's not an ongoing series. So it feels, like you said, it feels very much like we're leading to something, like a broader event of some kind. We don't know what.
It's it threw me. I loved the first issue, but it threw me for a loop because after the Immortal Hulk and how that ended and stuff like that, with Bruce going off, with Banner going off, stuff like that, and him finally in control once again. Then this it skips a gap because Hulk issue 1 picks up with the characters in the book keep talking about the events of El Paso. Something happened in El Paso that made Banner snap, and somehow now he's in the Hulk's. He's piloting the Hulk as if he's Captain Kirk inside the Hulk's brain, piloting it. He's basically turned the Hulk into a freaking starship.
Yeah, basically.
That's literally what
he's
Strange
driving him like a
That's literally what Doctor Strange says in the book. And Strange says, I can't even figure. I don't know how he did this. I've reached out to every sorcerer, every telepath, every powerful people, type of person in the universe, and even me, the Sorcerer Supreme, cannot figure out how he's doing this. And it's just and they keep saying it's after El Paso. I was like, what the freak happened? How did we get here? So obviously he's doing that on purpose. So we're doing what I'm doing, where it's what happened in El Paso? So I'm wondering if we're gonna get that explanation within this series, or are we going to, retroactively go back and see how we got there and maybe an event or something like that? I'm very curious.
Yeah, we're going to find out. The second issue is already out.
Because it's
that just dropped.
Because Immortal Hulk, we spent 50 issues. They finally resolved things to a pretty good, decent point. And then now, kind of. But the point is, they ended this way in the Immortal Hulk. And then in the Hulk with Donny Cates, it went all the way over here.
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, Cates is playing off a lot of the things that Ewing introduced in the Immortal Hulk. Ewing did a lot with the Immortal Hulk, because all that's 616. So that's the Bruce Banner,
yeah, for sure.
Our Bruce Banner, the main Bruce Banner Hulk. But he introduced so many concepts around Bruce Banner and the Hulk, Hulks, plural, right? So that that's why I said it gave him a lot of tools to play with. Cates I'm talking about. And, again, such a long form story. He can kind of go into that, dig into that, and pull little pieces. One of the really interesting things, and for those of you who are wondering if we're ever going to cover this stuff, Immortal Hulk, we actually just covered the Immortal Hulk. The finale, that episode actually just went live as you're watching and listening to this. You can find that on the main variant channel. And we'll be covering Hulk number 1, Donny Cates Hulk number 1, right after the new year, and we'll continue to cover that as well. But one of the cool things that it introduced, Immortal Hulk, the finale, was the concept that Banner and the leader are related through in distant past.
Yeah.
And there's this conflict. So I'm wondering now going forward, is he going to play off of that? So that's little things like that, where it's things that he can draw on now that is now canon, that he can just pull on and say, okay, now how can I play with that? And I have to believe that some of that is going to come to play because of the fact that Ewing put it in the finale.
For
you
sure.
know what I'm saying?
But it's like still like, why are you piloting the Hulks? As like, is that like the most? It's like it's so crazy. It might work scenario. Like what, dude? Like he's piloting. I mean, because it's really interesting.
Well, it's that whole concept that got introduced of it's not Banner trying to control the Hulk. It's the Hulk protecting all of us from Banner.
Well, that's what Doctor Strange. That's the theory of Doctor Strange. At the beginning
but that
of the
concept originated in the Immortal Hulk and with Ewing.
But I mean, yeah, it's curious. I guess I just want to know what happened in the events of El Paso, because whatever happened there is how obviously they got to this point.
Yep.
So I wanted, because like you see Banner at the end of Immortal Hulk walking off, doing his thing in the city. And then we pick up with the Hulk where like now he's piloting him. So I'm like, why? For why?
So interesting. Either way, the point is that these books are a ton of fun. And these creators, Donny Cates especially, spearheading a lot of it.
The whole One Above All thing was pretty crazy though too. How the whole revelation of that and telling like the Hulk who it really is and stuff is pretty crazy.
I mean, just the creation of the One Below All.
That's what I was alluding to, where the Hulk is like the one below all. Yeah.
I mean, just that, and then that's obviously the main crux of this Immortal Hulk title, but how the One Above All comes in at the end, and I won't spoil the whole thing. Watch the episode if you want, but it's just all of it is just really well written. These are really well written stories, and all from Marvel, all from Marvel is what I'm trying to say. So we're kind of on the same page. We almost landed exactly in the same spot, just a small deviation.
For sure. So I guess that brings to number 2, which would be my TV category.
Yeah,
the TV category. So I was gonna pick another show, but I think you picked the show, so I was like, I'm not gonna do the thing where like we're just both talking about something. Yeah, I'm just gonna pick something else I really enjoyed as well, and that would be The Bad Batch. I loved.
You did love The Bad Batch.
Well,
we both did.
Right. Yeah. Now excellent. I know people were like, what about like the fucking Winter Soldier, WandaVision, all that stuff. Well, at the time of shooting this, Hawkeye isn't over. I liked What If and stuff, but again, I've said it before. I love the MCU. Awesome. Love it, love it, love it. But we've had so much of it over the last 10 years, and especially since Disney Plus, they've been like just with the shows, they've just been pumping it out, where it's not that I'm tired of it. It's just there's so much of it. It's just like, I don't know, I guess like I'm used to it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's just kind of become common where I still love it to death, but it doesn't have that like, not everything has that like, whoa thing anymore.
So none of it has hit you in a way that was like, it was groundbreaking or it did something really uniquely different.
Yeah, I mean, like WandaVision was very different. I really enjoyed it and stuff like that, but nothing. I haven't had anything that was like I get like a Civil War, like Infinity War was just like,
and it surprised you per se.
Right? Yeah. Loki would be the closest thing to that, but I went with Bad Batch just because it was one. I think it was the only. No, we got Star Wars Visions this year, so it was one of the few Star Wars shows or pieces of content we got this year. And I just, I've been really big on Star Wars ever since The Mandalorian, and essentially when Favreau and Filoni took over things on the TV side, the Disney Plus side of things. So, because they've gone back to the Star Wars that I grew up with, like the real Star Wars, not like let's create all these new characters. I'm like, no, I want the mythology from George Lucas, not like whatever these people are doing over here. So, the Bad Batch was the perfect thing because they basically explored what was going on, how basically what happened after Order 66. Right. Like at the very first episode, we see like that getting, activated, Order 66, like Palpatine putting it into place. And we see what happens to some of the troopers and stuff like that, or some clone troopers. And then we see the Bad Batch it doesn't affect them because they're like the elite, right? It just doesn't affect, the inhibitor chips or whatever in their brain. So we get to see that whole time era and stuff like that. And they're bouncing around the galaxy. And it's just really, really well done. I don't know. It's just Filoni. We see like Cad Bane. We see Hera. Lots of characters that we love from like Clone Wars and Rebels. And it's just that time era that I like, explaining the transition from clone troopers to stormtroopers.
Right.
Which I think I said it to you like last year. I'm like, I wonder if they're ever going to do that. I think I said it actually before the Bad Batch. Right. And to my happy surprise, that's literally what the Bad Batch is doing, showing us the transition from clone troopers to stormtroopers, going as far as to even using concept art for the original stormtroopers and making those the Gen 1 stormtroopers in this show, even showing us elite troopers and stuff like that. So I love that it's exploring that and the relationship between just the Bad Batch in general, where it's like this family that's not really a family, but they're a family, and now they kind of have like an adoptive daughter in Omega, and then they have like this evil brother, Crosshair, and things still didn't get resolved at the end of the season. And I'm just so excited for season 2. Loved it. Big Star Wars fan. Had to be on my list.
Yeah, it was very hard. There's another one very similar to King of Black. It was very hard not to put on the list because that was a fantastic show and it was such a great add to Star Wars mythos. I agree with pretty much everything you said. I really don't have an argument. I don't have a count. Although one of the things I did think of is one of the things we have not had a chance to talk about over the last few weeks is Kathleen Kennedy getting re-upped with Star Wars for 3 more years. I'm just gonna say that surprised me a little bit, not a ton, a little bit, and I'm just wondering what you think about it, but also, what the audience thinks about it. So, what do you think about it, Arris?
I think what any diehard Star Wars fan probably thinks is give it all to Filoni. That's what I will say. Give it all to the man who literally was trained and, was the Padawan of freaking George Lucas.
Yeah. The Jedi himself.
Right. Now, like, Lucas is the man. He's the without him, none of this would exist.
Yeah. He's Yoda.
But a lot, he's right. But a lot of people could say that, Filoni is taking everything that Lucas has done and executing it to the same level or even better. Like he's taking the tools. I've said it before.
I can't argue with that because he's doing a lot of the things that people are a novelty. Like let's say the method of acting.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. That were a novelty for Star Wars, but not the best. Like objectively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're fixing a lot of that.
For sure. Yeah, it's because Luke, again, Luke, he created it all. You can never, he's the guy, will always be the guy because he literally created it. But it's just, Filoni for me honors that so much, but I feel like is a better director in the sense where like, so he's Lucas's like brain in the sense where he's taking everything he's made, but he can put it together better on screen. Does that make any sense to you?
I think Filoni would probably argue that.
He totally would. But that's what makes him so great because he will never ever admit that he potentially could even be better than Lucas himself. But that's what makes him perfect. That's who you want your hero to be.
I won't argue that point. Yeah.
You don't want your hero to be some arrogant person who's like, I'm the best. You want to be like, no, he's created it. This is his stuff. But everyone silently knows that you're the guy taking those toys and pumping it out, making it amazing.
Yeah, I think because there is an argument to be had that Lucas, if Lucas had some of the tools at his disposal that Filoni has at his age.
This is true.
Because a lot of the tools that Lucas, he didn't start getting some of the really bigger tools digitally in terms of technology until he was already kind of along in years. He was the second half of his life, we'll say. Filoni's still a young guy, and he got to play with these tools and be able to really create Star Wars however he wanted and tell those stories however he wanted, in his prime. And you can say what you want, but being creators like anything else, the further along you get in years, you get tired. You know what I mean? Your ideas, your ideas aren't quite as crisp, or whatever. And that's typically true even of the greats, and that doesn't mean they don't do good work. It's just that, I would say Lucas, there were still things he wanted to do. But I think he was more, when he did, let's say, the prequels, I think he was more interested in the actual technology itself than he was with the storytelling per se at that point.
But you know what's a perfect example of why? Because again, Lucas is the guy. He's the guy. I'm saying he's the guy. But for whatever reason, I'm drawn more to Filoni. For the perfect example of that is in the gallery season 1, when he sat down and took Favreau, freaking Taika Waititi, and like all these directors of season 1 to school breaking down
that was amazing.
Why the trilogy is so amazing.
Yeah.
He that went viral.
Well, the prequel trilogy.
The prequel trilogy. Yeah, sorry. The prequel trilogy. That was so good it went viral. And literally, I saw people commenting, made people who weren't fans of the prequel trilogy originally fans, because he explained it all in a way. It was like, oh, that is what Lucas was doing. Mm-hmm. So it's just what I'm saying. It's just the way he conveys things. It's kind of like you could have a teacher where you both know the same thing, but for whatever reason, you learn it better from this one because the way they're teaching it, it just lands with you better.
Yep.
That's kind of what Filoni is for me. The way he explains things, the way he does things. And I grew up with Lucas, obviously. My dad introduced me to the films, but I was like a kid when like Clone Wars was coming out, Rebels was coming out and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's just Filoni, man. That guy. That freaking guy.
Yeah, no, it is completely fair. He is doing amazing work with what Lucas created. He really has taken the reins in a way that is, as we've said a million times, as you just kind of, articulated, that he's taken it in a way that like honors and pays tribute to what came before, but adding just incredible mythos to it, including new characters.
That's what I'm saying. He's co-created
doing a great job.
Cad Bane, Ahsoka, obviously, like the Bad Batch, like this guy, and dude, God bless him. Obviously, it wouldn't be possible without Lucas, but man, God bless him.
No, and I will never take anything away from George Lucas. People can knock him all they want. That dude's a genius
for sure.
And I do want to clarify something.
You know how you know you're a genius? When a company will pay you $5 billion for the thing you created. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think they paid him enough. I think that he got gypped. But I do want to clarify with the thing I said about where he didn't care about this. I said he didn't care as much about the storytelling, care more about the technology. What I mean to say, I want to clarify that because I don't want it to sound like I'm saying that Lucas didn't care about telling Star Wars stories.
Right.
Is that he was the new digital technologies that were available to him was like it was like a kid with a new toy. Like he finally got to do and create these visuals that he intended from the beginning. So I felt like at that time he was really focused on developing this new digital world. Because remember, he owns ILM. So creating and expanding and exploring these new digital landscapes and using these tools and these techniques to really expand the Star Wars universe to where, maybe some elements of the Star Wars story got lost to where, so for some people, it wasn't as crisp and concise as the first three might have been. That's all I mean. But they were still great. But as Filoni explained, I think a lot of us even missed a lot of what he was doing.
You know what it is? It's kind of like the Palpatine Darth Vader thing, right? Where you got the Emperor, Lucas, more powerful, but who's going out doing all the freaking, smiting everyone down, doing all the stuff? Vader, doing the dirty work. That's what's going on right now. Like, he's always loyal. He's like, whatever the Emperor says, this is what he says. But he's the one going out and doing it. That's what kind of Filoni's doing, right? Well,
so in conclusion, Kennedy gets re-upped for 3 years.
Yeah. And I want it to be Filoni.
But he does have creative control over at least a portion.
For sure. He got promoted early this year, I believe, right?
Correct.
2021.
Yep.
So yeah, he is the chief creative officer, I believe.
I believe so.
Of Star Wars.
I think he's creative director.
Yeah. But, it's kind of weird though, because it's a catch-22, because as much as I would want him to be like, Kathleen Kennedy's role, I kind of like that he's kind of still boots on the ground, writing the scripts, directing the episodes, because that's like,
I like that he's not bogged down by the business side of it.
Exactly. Yeah. He's there to be creative.
Yes.
And
he's free to create. I am still very curious about, because there's rumors coming out now that we're going to get not only an Old Republic piece of content, whether it's a series or a movie or a trilogy. At some point, there's rumblings from inside Lucasfilm, but also they're talking about doing a High Republic series or trilogy simultaneously or around the same time, which is what I speculated. That was my anticipation, that we were going High Republic. They've made a very big deal of this new High Republic world aspect of Star Wars,
even though it doesn't seem to be tracking too well.
It does not.
It
does not. And to be fair, I have base. Not, really, done a deep dive on the numbers for it. But you don't, you can kind of I would say we have our finger on the pulse to some degree of fandom.
And collectibles is
and
always
it's not been huge.
A very good gauge, especially with Star Wars, because as you know, if you don't know, Lucas made the bulk of his money through merchandise. Right. So like Star Wars, obviously the movies, but merchandise has always been like hand in hand with Star Wars in general. So you can kind of tell by like the collectibles they put out, the figures that come out, the cups for that particular thing. And there's been tons of Mandalorian merchandise.
That's right.
We're about to get tons of Book of Boba Fett merchandise.
Yep. No shortage of Vader merch.
No Vader, Stormtroopers, any of that stuff. You know, the New Republic's been out for quite a while now. Nothing. Not really much. No figures, especially from Hasbro. Lots of books, right. But no, like, you know, I'm sure you can get t-shirts and stuff, but like, case in point, Hasbro, they got their popular Black Series line. They make action figures for comic book characters, the video game characters, the movie, and pretty quick, too. Like, pretty quick. They have yet to make anything for the New Republic yet, which is curious.
Yeah, and, you know, they've definitely invested a lot into it, so it makes sense. They kind of went all in right out of the gate with creating this new High Republic era so they could tell their own unique story. When the fans really just wanted them to go into Legends and pull the Old Republic out.
What's I'm saying, even in the comics, everyone, you know, what do we got right now? We got the War of the Bounty Hunters, which was very successful. It's part one of a 3-part trilogy. We're going into the...
But it's exploring existing timelines.
Exactly. So
with existing characters.
It seems like they're not having success doing stuff that's not attached to the core of the Star Wars that's been established by Lucas. Anytime they try to go too far into the future or too far in the past that's not attached to anything Lucas originally did, it seems like it's not doing so hot.
I think that, and this is the last thing I'll say about it, and we'll move on. I think that part of the problem, though, is I think they lost some of the grace with the fans with the first trilogy.
Yeah.
The film trilogy. Some of the things that went down, and this is not me making a judgment one way or another, it's just a statement of fact. I feel like with a portion of the fan base, they lost that grace that you need to be able to just kind of wholesale create new characters and side stories within an existing franchise. They lost some of that with the fan base, and they haven't done enough yet to earn it back. So them just kind of creating these, you know, that's why the Mandalorian and stuff has been so successful, because they're staying within the known, you know, universe. And characters, the storylines,
but they're creating
timelines.
New characters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's organic, and the fan base is willing. It's much more willing to go, see, yeah, perfect, nailed it. But when it's not that, and it's just this whole new thing, people are just going to assume, because of some things that have been done in the past and some perceptions now that exist, they're just going to assume that, oh no, you're just using Star Wars to tell whatever stupid story that they don't like,
right?
Whether that's true or not, because it doesn't mean that it won't be a good story. It's just, to some degree, decisions get made in people's minds, and they won't give you a shot after that.
Right.
And that has to be fixed.
Yeah, I'm very, very, I'm super curious for the movie side of things for Star, because right now the future of Star Wars, is Disney Plus. But they have yet to announce any movie.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Rogue Squadron, but now that's delayed indefinitely. And there's only rumors of Old and New Republic. So it's like, it's really weird that, you know, one of the biggest film franchises in the world is now, the epicenter is streaming for TV show format.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And they've got all the rumors of the kind of internal struggle between like this faction and that faction of old school, new school Star Wars.
I'm kind of,
and it's like, make them both.
Yeah.
Who cares?
I'm kind of digging I got to say, because we get more out of Star Wars with the shows, though, right? Because it's still movie quality, still movie budget, same actors. We got freaking McGregor reprising his role.
It's unbelievable.
As Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we get 5-6 hours instead of 2 hours now. So it's almost like maybe just
keep on going.
Still movie quality.
Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, that was perfection in Mandalorian season 2.
How curious.
And her series is probably going to be amazing.
How curious are you to see Hayden Christensen as Vader again?
I'm so excited about that. I almost don't even want to talk about it because I don't want to get too hyped up, because I'm trying to like temper my excitement.
I'm tempering myself for Book of Boba Fett because I feel like there's going to be some big surprises.
I think
so, and I read an article
because we're leading into.
I know. And I read an article today that oh my God, who's the guy who plays Boba Fett? Originally played Jango Fett in the prequel trilogies.
Oh man, his name is kind of
something Morrison, right?
Yeah, it is. Hold on.
Oh man.
I'm going to look just because we have to be fair to the man because he's awesome.
Yeah, he's great. He played Aquaman's dad in the live action movie. Anyway, while you look that up, I want to keep talking. Anyway, he said that within
Tamara Morrison,
there we go. He said within the Star Wars community, which we know, but he said it himself, that Filoni is known as an encyclopedia for Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
So much so that he admitted that Morrison admitted that he's not like, he doesn't watch all the movies, doesn't read all the comic books and stuff like that. So they brought in Filoni to explain Boba Fett to him as an encyclopedia. They had like a meeting, and he was just like, basically took him to school. It was like, this is your character. This is what you need to know. This is why he does what he does, and explained all of the lineage. That way, Morrison going in would know how to play the character correctly with giving the right emotion, just everything. And
it's amazing.
It's just, and we know this happened. We've seen it happen on behind the scenes where Favreau would ask Filoni, he's like, would he say this? He's like, no, he wouldn't say that.
Yeah, it's so good. Oh, it's so good. That was one of my favorite things that I saw in all the behind the scenes for The Mandalorian is Favreau asking Dave Filoni, hey, does this work? He can say this, right?
No, he can't say that.
He wouldn't say that. No, yeah, but he could say it. No, he would never say that. So good.
Is why I love the man so much.
Oh, it's so good.
I need him, and I just need to go on a freaking dinner with him and chat. Man. That would be a dream come true.
I will just say, I would love to be as well versed on anything in my life as he is on Star Wars. He legitimately is. Calling him an encyclopedia is legit.
You saw the gallery episode where he got the call from Lucasfilm. He was working at Nickelodeon at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He was working, and then they're like, yeah, George wants to talk to you. He's like, no, he thought it was a joke.
Yeah, right.
This freaking borderline didn't almost answer the phone because he thought someone was pranking him. And it was like, no, he's like, yeah, Lucas wants to talk to you. And then we know where it went from there.
What a phone call that was. Incredible.
Hello, Mr. Filoni. This is Lucasfilm. We got George on the phone.
Well, all this to say, Book of Boba Fett.
Can't wait.
Going to be amazing.
Can't wait.
But Bad Batch, fantastic choice for the list.
For sure. So that means we're at your number 2,
all
Tim.
Right, so my number 2, we went a long way around on that one. But that's Star Wars. Anytime it's Star Wars.
I know.
So my number 1 for the year, television-wise, was the Loki series.
That's the one I avoided picking because I knew you were going to pick it.
Yep. I went round and round with a few things because there was several different series that I really enjoyed. But the Loki series, I loved that series so much.
It was great.
The tone of the series, there was only one episode, and it was only half the episode, really, that I really didn't, it kind of lost me a little bit. But the overall storytelling, the visual look of that show, the characters that were involved, the relationship between Mobius and Loki, the dissecting of Loki as a character and why he does the things that he does, the introduction of Kang the Conqueror and the splintering of the timelines, why Kang was controlling the timelines the way that he was, and what killing him and ending that cycle would do, only to be proven right, and where that sets the MCU out on as far as a course, and where, what that will mean for the future of the MCU. There was just so many things. It was so fun to speculate about because there was so many possibilities, similarly to the WandaVision series.
Yes. So this one I feel like had a way better payoff.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to, I'm not trying to knock WandaVision. WandaVision was a great show too, but the end of it was
Where's Mephisto, Feige? Where's Mephisto, Feige?
It was a little bit unsatisfying at the end, but a great series also. But Loki was the total 180-degree opposite. That show ended and you were like, you're just sitting there like this, what did, you know what I mean? What can they do in season 2? But what is this going to mean for the immediate MCU?
I know, and we've had so much MCU, shows and even movies after it, and they still haven't touched on it yet. So I'm like, what are you coming back to this?
I really thought we were going to get something in Eternals, and it wasn't even close. They introduced a whole nother cluster of what in the world is happening. But yeah, loved Loki from start to finish. I just thought all the creators that they brought on board for that were just brilliant.
Spider-Man, right? That's got to be where they.
Spider-Man might be where we touch on some of it.
Definitely, if not, definitely the Multiverse of Madness.
I mean, I have to imagine that Spider-Man is going to play off Loki, and then Multiverse of Madness is going to play off both.
I've been burned with my guesses so many times that I'm like, I don't know.
Because we know we're getting Kang in the Ant-Man movie.
Yes. Oh, speaking of which, did you see the stunt team shirt image that leaked?
No.
So the stunt team, they all have shirts, you know, for the movie. It has Ant-Man's helmet on it that's all cracked and like broken, right? But there's a reflection of Kang, like the Kang in his full attire in the image on the helmet. Really? So it's our first leaked look at what Kang.
Why would they put that
like.
on a stunt shirt? Like a stunt performer shirt?
Because they were supposed to only, I guess, be wearing it on set. It was like a gift to the stunt team.
It's freaking,
I don't know.
In this environment?
But we're not allowed to show the image because it's not official. It's leaked. But I will say it is comic accurate Kang. Blue face, orange helmet, green and purple outfit. I said orange helmet. Blue face, purple helmet. Like orange. Blue face, purple helmet, and purple and green outfit right out of the comic books. So if anyone was curious, is he going to look like the comic books? Pretty much 100% yes.
I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised at all. And, you know, if you've read
his eyes even glow like white or yellow, which is crazy.
That is going to be, I'm telling you, based on what we saw in the Loki series, what they started off with Kang, that gave me so much optimism for just the overall arc of Kang in the MCU, because the actor that they chose,
Jonathan Majors, is so good. His performance of going from one to the next, of the way he acted, so that because he acted like this very kind of like Willy Wonka almost like character, so that it would be that much of a contrast. Yes.
When he comes in as Kang the Conqueror.
Yep.
Because this Kang was not Kang the Conqueror.
He said like, he's
Nathaniel Richards.
Yeah. He's like, the one we saw in Loki's like, I'm your best case scenario. Like you want me. You don't want the other ones you're going to get. Right. And Sylvie was like, nope. And now they're going to get the bad one.
Yeah. You made me upset.
Yeah. You were going to get the bad one now.
Yeah. No, dude. So good. So good. Really, really excited to see where it all leads. And man, I will be just as happy as can be if they start touching on some of that in Spider-Man, which again, at this point, all of you know.
Yeah, right. For sure.
But we haven't seen it yet.
We filmed this way before. So yeah, I'm excited for just season 2. What if they actually wait till season 2 to touch on that stuff? Can you imagine?
I mean, I guess I can't say there's no way. But that's do we even have a date for the?
We don't have a date. We just know it's coming.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But any time that you can see Tom Hiddleston reprise his role as Loki, it's a good time.
How crazy is that? They killed him off in Infinity War.
I know.
And then like a few years later,
how they set the stage in Endgame is just so smart. Because you knew when that happened in Endgame, that's going to have ramifications. They did that on purpose.
It's crazy that he's been playing the character this long, though.
Yeah, still going.
That he's willing to play the character this long. You know what I mean?
You can tell he really loves playing that character.
He does. Even like the second year he was Loki, he showed up at Comic-Con in full attire, addressing the audience as Loki.
Dude, can you imagine the adrenaline of that moment as a performer?
My gosh. Because you're a character live to a crowd of like a few thousand people. That's nuts. What?
So that's my number one television show of 2021. So now we're on to movies.
Which, that's right.
At least in our camp, that's one of the harder ones.
That is one of the harder ones. I mean, we've got Shang-Chi, The Eternals, Venom Let There Be Carnage, The Suicide Squad. There was a bunch. I'm sure I'm forgetting more. There was a bunch of comic book movies and just nerdy movies in general come out this year. But my number one, purely just because this was something we thought we were never going to get.
It's true. We said that here.
Yeah, I was like, it's not going to happen. I wanted it to happen, but I didn't think it was going to happen. And that, of course, is the Snyder Cut. Yeah. Snyder's Justice League, the 4-hour epic that is that movie.
The Lord of the Rings, the Justice League edition.
The Peter Jackson cut. And man, so it's a mixture of, I did enjoy the movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but it's that mixed with the fact of like what this movie like represents. You know what I mean? As far as like just fandom in general.
It's true.
Because, we're not going to go down the wormhole of like, what went on with this movie, but you all know, in summary, basically, we got the Joss Whedon cut because the tragic thing that happened to Snyder's daughter. So he left the film, and then the movie became something it was not supposed to become. Literally, as we found out from watching the Snyder cut, like half of that movie, maybe more, was none of Snyder's vision. Like completely new shots, like tone, everything. I couldn't believe how different the movie was, especially like the thing that stood out to me the most, or one of the things that stood out to me the most, is in the theatrical cut, the Whedon cut, it opens up with Batman on the rooftop, the whole scene with the parademon. That wasn't Snyder. That was all Whedon came in, wrote, and shot that whole scene like he did with several other things in the movie. The whole Flash racing Superman, Whedon, again, like half that movie, like an hour of that movie was Whedon, the other hour was like butchered clips from Snyder that he turned into his own and did differently. So
it really was shocking how different of a movie it was.
Yeah, and just from a film standpoint, I can't remember if we've ever got to see that before from the same movie from two different directors.
No.
Right? So it's just like, this is just in film in general, this is like a weird case study, right?
Without question. That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Like this weird science experiment where we see the same exact movie from two different directors and how different they really are. And man, the Snyder cut was leaps and bounds better, obviously, than
shockingly
than the Whedon cut.
Yeah.
I think if we would have got the Snyder cut, if that tragedy did not happen with his family, I think the Snyderverse might still be going strong, because I know it was in flux, at Justice League, but it didn't really start diving until the failure that was the theatrical cut of Justice League. Because I believe if the Snyder's cut was released in theaters originally, it would have brought the fans back up, and we would have still been on that route, which is very unfortunate, because ever since the failure of the theatrical cut of the Justice League, that's when, like, what is the DCEU? Are they still doing the DCEU? Is this in continuity? Is the Joker in continuity? Is the Batman in continuity? I think Aquaman 2 is in continuity, because they're referring to the first Aquaman movie, and I think Gal Gadot was also in the Snyder's movie, so she's got to be in continuity. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, now it's just all this questioning
still
stuff.
Ongoing.
Yeah. So, but if that movie was released in theaters, I feel that we would have still going strong, at least in synergy with the universe that he established. And man, just it was just crazy to me, because one of the biggest things with theatrical cut was the villain, Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
Like, did not care. Like, and if you don't have a good villain, your story is not really, especially with superheroes, if you don't have a good villain, your story is not going to be really any good.
Right.
And man, was not good in theatrical cut.
No.
It was crazy how much you cared and understood for Steppenwolf in the Snyder cut.
And how much cooler he looked.
His design, way cooler. But then even just you're like, oh, I get why he's here. He's trying to prove himself to Darkseid after he failed him. So he's trying to get him, like, this last mother box. So it made sense. Just, it's like, oh, would you look at that?
He actually had an arc.
He had an arc, and Snyder actually explained what his story is, why he's here, why he's doing what he's doing. And Darkseid looked dope. His Superman was infinitely better in this movie. The Batman was everything was better in this movie.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed the movie. I am a bigger DC fan than Marvel and stuff. So for me, being a bigger DC fan as Batman and some of the DC characters is what got me into comic books and period. I was like, yes, finally some justice, no pun intended.
Some justice.
But I really dug this movie as a comic book movie, as a fan, but also for like this weird, again, case study / experiment that, with the fans, speaking it into existence, and then just now being able to see, like, side by side, like Snyder's version of, like, the Wonder Woman fight he had in the movie and Whedon's version of the Wonder Woman fight he had in the movie. You could literally put them side by side, which people have done and uploaded them to YouTube. And yeah, that's my #1 favorite movie of the year. Loved it. And it's just really cool to see that Snyder got to finally tell his visions and, get his artwork out there for people to see, like, no. This is what I wanted to give you guys.
This is what it was supposed to be.
So just even for him personally, I was like, that's a win. Especially considering, again, the only reason why it didn't go through in the first place is because of the tragic death of his daughter. So that had to be, rewarding to be like, all right, at least they're going to let me show the world what I originally wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, if it is absolutely a demonstration of two very important things. One, persistence. Because dang. And two, the power that we really have as fans and consumers when I would say just people, the power that people really have to, will things.
Yes.
When people come together, even in small groups, right? Let alone large ones. So I think that the Justice League scenario, the Justice League fiasco, or whatever you want to call it, it was definitely a demonstration of those two things. And in the end, an artist got to show his art and kind of get some redemption for what was done to it. And the fans got to see what, was intended for this franchise. We may never see the second half of it, the actual fulfillment.
That's
maybe
the
we will,
thing.
maybe we won't. I'm done saying never. After I said it was never going to happen. There were I hope that we do, because especially where it left off with Darkseid and the Justice League.
We gotta see that Nightmare.
Yeah,
that verse
it would be very cool to see that finished off.
Dude, man, Darkseid was introduced in here. We got more Deathstroke.
Yep.
Batman is forced to team up with the Joker at the end in the Nightmare verse. We got evil Superman who's controlled by Darkseid. Man, it makes me sad that we might not ever see it. That's like the biggest cliffhanger in the world. Like, it's almost like, why would you do this if not knowing you're not going to do a second one? Like, really? Yeah. Like a live action movie seeing Batman forced to work with the Joker as they're combating a Darkseid controlled Superman. That's like the best freaking case scenario for a DC fan.
And the setup was pretty much perfect.
Yes, dude. Oh, man. It's again. I'm gonna cry because we may not never get it.
We'll see. It could happen. We'll see.
Even his version of Jared Leto Joker in the brief minute or two we saw at the end was infinitely better than what we saw before.
I will say this: if they're gonna do it, they better get up. They better get on it, because these performers are getting older.
Are you talking about Ben and Henry specifically?
Ben's well into his 50s. Henry's still a younger guy, but he's starting to get up there.
Poor Henry. He's freaking he made it vocal again, about 2 weeks ago from shooting this, that he's like, I'm down to do Superman. Waiting for the call, Warner Brothers.
Just hanging out here hoping to play Superman one more time.
Meanwhile,
just doing The Witcher in the meantime.
Dude, The Witcher. I'm excited for Witcher season 2. I was a big fan of season 1.
Yeah, I didn't see the whole season,
dude.
I saw the first couple episodes.
You need to toss a coin to your Witcher, Tim.
I do.
But I'm very excited, dude. So I was actually talking to my wife yesterday. The comicbook.com actually put out on Instagram all the movies coming out in December. And TV shows, and I could not believe the amount of content we're getting, because we mainly focus, on the Star Wars, Marvel, the nerdy side of things. But there's we got the Ricardos coming out with freaking Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem.
Javier Bardem, man, you messed it up for me. Javier Bardem.
Bardem, sorry, who I loved. It's a biopic with Lucille Ball and stuff like that. There's we got the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, Don't Look Up.
Is that the name of it? I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the title.
Anyway, there's a bunch of shows that I'm like, wow. So I got a lot to watch those a few weeks off after the end of the year, huh? I'll just be like this on the couch, picking my belly button, watching TV.
That just gave me a really gross visual.
I don't know. For whatever reason, I went to a Homer Simpson image. Ma, meatloaf.
The meatloaf, ma. Yeah. Yeah, there's always a lot of content, but I think 2022, if all things hold, then it will be. I think the amount of content that's going to come pouring out in 2022.
Can't wait for Moon Knight.
Is going to make 2021 look like it was just bored. Like it was just boring.
That says a lot, especially on the streaming side of things, because Lord, there's so much
stuff.
Oscar Isaac as the Moon Knight.
Speaking of Oscar Isaac.
Oh, I already know where this is going then.
That leads to my number one.
And you're going to be disappointed in me.
I'm already disappointed.
Because you know why I said that.
I know exactly why. And it's the reason we haven't talked about my number one pick for 2021 in the movie department on the show, and that is Dune. October.
I would like to say solid pick, but I haven't seen it.
He hasn't seen it.
So I can't say that.
That's what we're referring to. This man is still not seen Dune. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with him.
I'm going to. Definitely over Christmas break. For sure over Christmas break.
I don't know. I feel like you have to forfeit and turn in a portion. If I got to turn in mine over the behind the gallery.
You still haven't watched it, have you?
I still haven't.
And that's shorter.
But if I have to take
that's shorter.
my lashings for that, then you certainly have to take yours for not watching Dune. Dune was, I don't want to use the word masterpiece because that's a little bit snotty. It's a little bit uppity.
Nolan would say it.
Yeah, that's something Christopher Nolan would say. Love you, Chris.
Have you seen Interstellar?
But dude, what Denis Villeneuve did with Dune was tremendous. Mm-hmm. The visual effects for that film
look great.
Is just incredible. The acting is great. The writing is great. The cinematography from Greg Fraser, fantastic. The score from Hans Zimmer is absolutely amazing.
Hans Zimmer score it? I didn't know that.
He absolutely did. The entire cast from Timothée Chalamet all the way down to Oscar Isaac and even our boy Jason Momoa,
Aquaman himself,
was awesome. It made me want to go like, I love that you're, Aquaman and, he's in sea and all that kind of stuff. But I want him to play more roles like that. Like he played in, as kind of a soldier for House Atreides. It was really, really well done from top to bottom. You had this really classic story from Frank Herbert. You have the original film from the 80s, and it's kind of a cult classic. People either love it or hate it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And at least the original, one of the big complaints is that it was too convoluted and there's too much story to tell in one film. And that is a totally fair, I think a totally fair, critique of the first film because it is a huge story told over multiple books. And what Denis did with his first Dune is they learned that lesson and they told this huge long form story. It was 2.5 hours.
It's part 1 of 2, right?
But it's part 1.
Of 2 or 3?
I don't know if they're doing 2 or 3.
Okay.
But the point is that they didn't try to cram it all in one movie. Mm-hmm. They're telling a long.
They're doing what Peter Jackson did.
Yeah, and I don't even know when we're going to get the second film. Mm-hmm. And there hasn't really been anything rock solid announced.
But they are doing it.
Yes. And it did well at the box office. Mm-hmm. It was received very well. But I was really looking forward to it. I was trying. It's like anything, when you want something to be good really bad and then it looks good, you get, and then it can let you down. You can feel let down,
right? Because
you yourself amped up your anticipation way too high. Your expectations were way too high.
Right.
And so I was trying really hard to tamp my expectations because I love sci-fi. I love fantasy world building and all that kind of stuff. And this is one of those. This is like full-blown world building. In fact, a lot of people cite Dune as the original Star Wars. Of course, that's like a big argument in Geekdom is that Lucas stole a lot of his stories.
Did you hear my dismay?
His plot line. And I don't agree with that. I'm definitely not one of the people. I think that, that whole thing, I think is just such a silly argument because, every creation, every story is borrowing from something.
For sure.
Right? I mean, we tell similar elements in our stories. We add them.
As a writer, they say there's only 4 different stories to tell, and then you just mix them up.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And even, there's, even characters, right? We have character archetypes for a reason.
Right.
Right? In all story forms, you're telling a version of the same type of character of this archetype or that archetype or this archetype.
There's only so many situations you could do.
Right. And we're drawing from our human experiences. We're drawing from past art forms and so on and so forth. So I don't get into all that argument. I just let storytellers tell their stories, and sometimes it's an homage, sometimes a tip of the hat, sometimes it's just a straight retelling of a story, in a more modern way, or in a different era or time or whatever. But there are similarities, but Dune is a way darker story. It's way more serious. It deals with a lot of social critiques. That Star Wars does too, but it's very, very deeply embedded in the story and behind a lot of popcorn, pop culture, types genre. But this was really, 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 it met all my expectations and in some way exceeded it. Just because of how much attention to detail there was in not just telling a story, but creating the world in as much a practical way as possible, to where you felt like you were in it. It didn't feel digital.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And for a movie like that, that's huge. You know what I mean? They did a really good job. Even some of the sound design they did for this, and where they went out to the desert and they buried microphones deep into the sand.
Oh, that's cool.
At various depths, and then we're hitting the sand with various objects to create different sounds, just so that they could have where they set out recorders across various distances so they could just record the sound, the organic sound of the desert, of the way it has almost like a hum to it when the wind blows. And even the sound, the way the sand, just like those kind of attention to detail. I'm such a sucker for that.
Because that's the stuff you don't notice, but it's the stuff that makes it that much better.
Exactly right. That's exactly what it is. Is those are the things that actually draw you in that you're not aware is what's doing it.
It's like really good CGI. You don't even know it's CGI.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So, and the attention to detail, it just showed the love of the story from the filmmakers and them wanting to present like a really great version of this story. And they did a great job. It was easily my favorite movie of the year.
I definitely have to watch it. So I'm going to do that.
I probably just hyped it up way too much.
You did, right? I'm gonna freaking hate it. But you think, it's funny to me too, because I made the joke where it's like, how many superheroes and villains are in this film? You got Josh Brolin, Thanos, Zendaya, MJ, freaking Jason Momoa, Aquaman, Oscar Isaac, Moon Knight. It's just like, they just pulled from like, who's a superhero? You want to be in Dune?
You know who else is great in it? Is Rebecca Ferguson. She plays the singer in The Showman. Right?
Yeah, the redhead?
Yeah. Okay. So she is Lady Atreides in the movie.
Okay.
She's Oscar Isaac's wife.
Okay.
And she is awesome.
Is she?
So good.
Who's the bad guy? Skarsgård.
Yeah, Skarsgård. Yeah.
What's his last name?
Yeah, it's Stellan Skarsgård. There's an entire family.
But he's in Thor.
Yes.
So it's just
he's one of the Thor. And he is, I don't want to say unrecognizable because you can see it's him, but what they do with him with the practical makeup. Yeah, he's in that mixed with VFX too.
He's in that big like fat suit or whatever.
Yeah. Really good and creepy as crap. I need to see it. Yeah, but so good.
See me, I know nothing about Dune. Like I am not
really.
Yeah, like
this thing has Javier Bardem. It's got Josh Brolin in it. It's got Oscar Isaac, which by the way, this movie will make you love Oscar Isaac that much more.
I already love Oscar
good
Isaac.
In it.
Love him so much.
Everybody was great. You have to see it. You have to see it.
Yeah, like I said a bit ago, I'm definitely gonna watch it over Christmas break.
Good.
It's like 2.5 hours, right?
Yeah, it's 2:35 or something like that.
Okay, so solid movie. Yeah, I definitely need to see it, but I know nothing about Dune, so this is gonna be a first for me. But it looks cool. It looks really, really cool.
Do it.
Do it.
Finish your 2021 strong.
But that kind of brings us to what? Honorable mentions?
Yeah, well, I kind of I snuck in my honorable mentions in there, yeah.
All right. Well,
I mean, I have a couple more I can mention, but
the Suicide Squad is one of mine. I really enjoyed that movie.
I remember.
By James Gunn and stuff like that. And it's funny because some people were saying like the third act got a little like goofy and stuff like that, but that's why I liked it so much. Like he was so true to Starro. So I'm like, yes, you did Starro justice. He's even goofy in the comics. That's kind of the point of the character where it's like, yeah, it's ridiculous. It's a giant alien starfish. Like that's literally the point of the character, kind of like a talking raccoon or a talking tree that says 3 words. But I really, really enjoyed that movie, and I'm excited to see what James Gunn does with future DC films because we know he's got The Peacemaker, obviously the HBO series coming out, but he's also said he will probably be revisiting the DC universe on the movie cinematic side. And not necessarily a sequel to the Suicide Squad. He's got some other things that he may have ideas for or in the works, which is very interesting. So it's like, if you're not going to do a sequel to the Suicide Squad, what other characters do you want to explore in the DC universe?
I'll be interested to see how much he's able to do past, I guess if Peacemaker's a success, then I think that we'll see him do a bunch more. But the Suicide Squad, from a financial standpoint, was not a huge success.
Which is kind of crazy because people loved it. Like across the board, it was well received.
Yeah, I mean,
especially for a rated R movie.
You can't even blame it on, the theater issues or anything like that because Black Widow made way more money. And
but it was rated R.
Were coming out around it.
But it was rated R, and we know rated R movies off the bat don't make as much as PG-13.
I mean, it didn't really hurt Deadpool or several other R-rated movies before, outside of that. So
but that was
it was an interesting
pandemic.
You heard a lot of people say that they liked it, But then just as far as like a number standpoint, it was like very so-so.
Which is weird because like we know the first Suicide Squad, that one like bombed. So I'm like,
it might have just been like, as far as like people that were really high on it, it just might have been like certain camps.
I don't know, man. Because like even the Rotten Tomato score, if I remember correctly, the fan side was like really, really good. The critic side was in the middle. I think it got like 60 or 70% or something like that. But that's still decent. It's not like it's not like an A+. Yeah. But that's still like, yeah, it was good. So I don't know.
It's interesting. I mean, he's gonna be doing a bunch of stuff.
I mean, he's doing
between Marvel, DC.
He's doing the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the holiday special. We're getting freaking Adam Warlock finally in Volume 3. And he's got Peacemaker coming. So, I mean, he's one of the biggest directors in Hollywood. He will have work. Yeah. He will have work.
Yeah, he'll definitely keep busy. Well, my I guess for a movie, what my honorable mention would have to be is A Quiet Place 2.
I haven't seen that either.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I know. I hear that it's amazing. I love the first one.
It's better than the first.
Really? Don't hype me up, dude, because I love the first one.
I won't. I mean, it's just true. I'm not trying to hype you up, but for me, I walked out of there going, wow, I think that I might have liked that better.
I know Cillian Murphy is in it.
Yes.
And I love me some Peaky Blinders.
Dude, he's so good in that. It's so good. The flashbacks with John Krasinski's character and how they build on that.
I saw that in the trailer, how like you kind of see how it all goes down, where they're like in a square, like on a street, and you see like the alien things come out or whatever.
The story about his daughter, and really wanting to protect the family.
Because spoiler,
she's deaf.
Spoiler, he dies at the end of the first one.
Yes.
And so this is a continuation of that, but then they give flashbacks of how it all went down, I guess. Like
you go back and forth in time. And they fill in a bunch of gaps.
I feel like I need to watch that before I even watch Dune.
Yeah, because a big part of the second one, and this is why I think I might have liked it better than the first, even better than the first, because I love the first one. And I'm not a big horror guy. You know that.
Yeah.
I'm not a big horror guy, but John Krasinski absolutely knocked this series.
He wrote and
directed,
out of the
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he just did such a good job. But Emily Blunt is just always amazing.
His wife.
She's so good. But even the kids that they cast as their children, just everybody in the films, both of them, for 1 and 2, so good. But in the second one, they tell you the story of how it all began, and they tell you like day one and so on, and it's just so well written, so well told. The character development is really good. It's heartfelt. It's nerve-wracking. Really, really good. So that would probably be my biggest honorable mention of 2021. So good.
You're making me like really want to watch it like this weekend or something now.
And you know what is, I'm really big on like sound in film.
The first one was
and how they use sound in these movies. So smart, because so well done.
Because it's a movie where the whole premise is if you make sound, you're gonna die. They're gonna eat you. Yeah. So I remember in the first one, like the bathtub scene with Emily Blunt, it gets so
she's giving birth to a child.
It's so tense. And then I feel these movies hit harder for me too. They become more stressful ever since I became a father. Because anything with kids across the board now, even Hawkeye, where they're exploring like the daughter moments, like with Echo and even Kate Bishop. I'm like, I have 2 daughters. I know that would be horrible. So it just hits me harder now. And this, movie, same thing with kids and stuff like that. So it's just that much more stressful because now I know what it is. Yeah. It's like if I was in that situation, how I'd feel like, oh my God. My kids.
Yeah. So. It's like that scene you brought up Hawkeye. It's like that scene in the 3rd episode of Hawkeye where because his hearing aid got broken. And so he couldn't really hear.
Almost brought me to tears.
Yeah. And his son calls him on the phone and he couldn't make out anything he was saying. And there's this really great character moment between he and, Jeremy Renner's Clint Barton and Kate Bishop, where she's having to write down for him what his son is saying to him. So he can answer him, but he can't hear a thing. But that was similar, very similar, very cool. with the kids and just great character moments.
I can't wait to watch that. And I kind of forgot. I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot that's a movie I didn't see. I'm like, that's right, that did come out and I didn't see it. So now I'm gonna have to, get that digitally and watch that here soon because that's only probably like an hour and a half too. It's not like a long movie, right?
No, I believe it's 2 hours. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay,
I think so.
Okay,
somewhere in that part.
Either I was just because like suspense movies, horror movies are usually shorter. It's like the superhero movies are the ones that are now getting like pushing 3 hours.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I've always like one of my favorite parts about those 2 movies is, and I think it's just genius, is John Krasinski introduces into this idea of a world where you can't make a sound, right? Because the predators, everything is based on sound. They find you based on even the smallest sound. Is where you introduce into that one of the characters can't hear, right? She's deaf. And then at the same time, you're also having to introduce a newborn child into the mix. So, I mean, things that both, so both ends of the spectrum where it's just creates, it's like worst case scenario in that environment.
I'm very really curious to see how, it's dealt with in the second movie with the whole baby thing. Cause it's just like, what do you how do you make a baby, stop crying like on in an instant?
Watch it. There's some moments where you're like, oh my God.
I know, freaking. I need to, because I think I saw in the trailer she like carries the baby around in like this basket with like oxygen or something. So like if it makes a sound, you can't hear. But it's like, how do you train a baby to like not cry just being in the dark by itself?
Answer: you don't.
So anyway, I definitely need to watch that movie. But what else is? I guess the other Disney Plus shows too, because I really enjoyed all the Marvel shows this year. I think the next one up would probably be after Loki. Would be WandaVision for me, and then the Falcon Winter Soldier, can't say the name, and What If was really good. But Hawkeye's not done at the time of us shooting this.
No.
But I've been saying we're halfway through. We've seen the first 3 episodes. It's 6 episodes in its entirety. For me, for whatever reason, just personally, it's hitting my vibes, my feelings in a certain spot. I'm kind of enjoying this more than some of the other ones, like by a lot. Like this is gonna rival Loki for me on this pace.
Well, I mean, it's fair. Because I said the first couple of episodes, it was a little slow for me. The third episode really...
Dude.
Because that was the anticipation. It's like, it's a little slow out of the gate, but I anticipated
I thought the first episode was great. They weren't, for me personally, they weren't slow.
They weren't bad. I liked them. It's just that it was a little bit slow. But the third one picked up tremendously. But
it was almost all action too, though.
Yeah. That clip of the car chase was in the third episode that we were missing from the first 2.
It's cool to see how much they actually cut out of it too, because they're like, you cut a lot of meat out of this.
Yeah, some great, really cool moments with his trick arrows, especially that Pym arrow.
I love that they were exploring that so much. They took a whole 10-minute segment to explore his trick arrows, and there were so many nods to the comic books with the plunger arrow and all that stuff like that, and just the USB arrows. Like they are literally like just tipping the hat to like the comic books, which is great.
No joke. And unlike Hawkeye previously in the MCU, they pulled from a lot of different things and kind of Hawkeye's mythos. But with this show, they're really just kind of going full bore into, is it Chip Zdarsky that wrote it? Matt Fraction, I'm sorry. Yeah, I knew that. I don't know why I had a brain fart. But yeah, Matt Fraction's story, Hawkeye's story. And I'm really kind of going all in with that.
Well, he was actually a consultant.
And even the new Kate Bishop comics.
For sure. He was, the MCU, Marvel Studios brought him in to consult.
I saw that.
For the show, which is awesome. I mean, the opening credits of just the theme of the white and the purple, like and the violet, like the shades. That's straight up the book. You look at it, that's the cover of the trades and stuff like that. True. So I'm like, they picked the style, like you said, and they went with it. Where we're even seeing the Tracksuit Mafia out of there, Kate Bishop and stuff. Just even Lucky the pizza dog, the hearing.
Yeah.
It's again, it's so funny that I was excited for the show, but I wasn't like stoked like I was for some of the other ones. And it's quickly becoming like my favorite MCU Disney Plus show.
I'm actually really happy about it because, I was the opposite. I would say Hawkeye's always been one of my, one of the characters that I've liked most in the MCU because I think he has one of the best arcs.
He has.
So, but this show I'm really happy to see them explore him more and kind of fill in some of the gaps, especially because we're, he's going to be moving on soon. You can tell.
He's so good, dude. He's maybe so
not.
Good.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe they keep him around in some capacity, but my guess is that she becomes the new Hawkeye and he wants to go retire and be with his family.
It's because we were talking about this in an earlier podcast where it's like, for some reason, I don't know if I just forgot or wasn't thinking about it. Like this show reminded me, it's like, no, like you kind of just said, Hawkeye has been one of the coolest members of the Avengers since the beginning.
Easily,
Like in Civil War, he was fantastic. In Age of Ultron, he was arguably one of the best characters. Definitely like the heart of that movie and stuff like that. So it's just, Civil War, he was like the heart of that movie.
Civil War is really where he's like the glue that holds everything together.
And they hide out. Yeah. But man, he's just really... Jeremy Renner just plays the character great. He's just
awesome.
He's really funny. I love that he's just, the whole bit in this latest episode 3, again at the time of shooting this, where Kate Bishop's like, I designed you a costume, and it's like his original costume from the comic books. He's like, what's that? He goes, they're wings, like on your eyes, and that's an H for Hawkeye. He's like, see, my whole job is to blend in, so I don't think wearing bright purple would work out for me.
I love how he follows that up with, also my wife would divorce me if I wore that.
And it's just played so well while still acknowledging the comic books. I think they're doing a great job. So kudos to everyone involved.
Yeah, it is. It's a very good series. It's hard to choose between, after Loki for me, it's hard to choose between the MCU shows because they all were good in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They all introduced something that was unique and fun.
It's true. They all are very different.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hawkeye is extremely different than Loki. Loki's extremely different than WandaVision. Yeah. So it is kind of hard.
What If is like its own. I mean, it's totally unique.
So it's kind of like you have to personally pick what's your favorite flavor.
Yes, exactly.
And that's kind of what I said with Hawkeye, where for this genre they're doing is resonating with me more because I kind of just like that style personally.
Yeah, it's right up your alley.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after Loki, I have a hard time like kind of narrowing one down over the other because I kind of just like them all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those things, just like, I could watch any of them really.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into like Star Wars side, and we're talking about Disney Plus. On the Star Wars side, you get into like the Bad Batch and, Visions. Even there was some of the Vision episodes that were just absolutely
awesome.
Amazing.
Very cool.
Really, really good. So I don't watch a ton of TV, so it's kind of hard for me also. I have a very small list. I don't watch a lot of TV shows because I don't have a ton of time. As I said many, many times on the show, probably too many. I watch more movies than I would say TV shows. But there was, I would say, Loki hands down. And then after that, it gets a little bit dicey for me on the TV front. Does Ancient Aliens count?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, okay. That's my late night when I can't sleep or I've worked too late. I just flip it on and go to sleep.
Aliens.
Yeah, Aliens. That's my guilty pleasure.
But man, we got a lot to look forward to in 2022 because that was our 2021. But man, I'm sure there's plenty of stuff we're forgetting. But off the bat, the Batman.
Oh yeah,
Black Adam.
Oh, you get into trailers. That's a whole nother animal,
dude. I can't. It's gonna be a busy year.
Yeah,
a busy year and a heavy Star Wars year. Because we were kind of light on Star Wars this year, so I'm very excited for next year.
Man, oh man, and that's why
we're gonna be heavy on.
I just keep remembering what you said. Hold steady, 2022,
dude. Because
hold steady.
Because if this year was that busy with just Marvel going full steam, imagine.
And only about half of the year, by the way.
Right. So imagine Marvel full steam all year, Star Wars full steam all year. DC is ramping up a lot next year. Like. Fire everything. Give them everything we've got, Captain.
And that's not even in touching on all of the competitive alternative that's not Marvel, DC, Star Wars.
It's true.
Right? That people coming in and bringing their own content. You've got more Game of Thrones coming.
The Boys is coming back for season 3.
Yeah, there's just a ton of content coming back because production's back in full swing. And hopefully, we were able to keep it that way.
Maybe some astonishing times.
Maybe. But yeah, 2022 is going to be a lot of fun. And we will actually be right back here when we get back in studio after the new year to talk about the things that we are most looking forward to in 2022. That'll actually be our first episode of the new year. So make sure to meet us back here. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Spoiler, the Batman. The Batman. I mean,
it may or may not be number 1, 2, and 3.
It's just like
may or may not be the Batman.
Man, you said that, and I already know my top 2 off the bat. Obviously, the Batman. You probably can guess the second one. But we're gonna save it. We're gonna save it.
I'm not saying
we're gonna save it.
You're gonna have to come back and watch.
But those two things. Okay.
The Batman, we might have to take the Batman off the table.
Because it's so obvious.
Because it's going to be both of ours, probably.
Okay, that's true.
And it'll have to be everything other than the Batman.
Because it's definitely going to be mine.
Yeah, it will probably be mine too.
And that says a lot because, again, whatever, we'll save it. We'll save it for the new year.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yes. So that brings this year to a close, Tim.
That's right.
Another 365 done.
Another year in the bank. And before we wrap up, we have to say thank you to all of you in the Variant Nation for joining us for another year.
No, not you, the one behind you. Okay, you too.
Well, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing if you guys weren't out there doing what you're doing, which is, being a part of the show, supporting what we do, but also just being part of the community and letting us know what you like, what you don't like.
For sure. It's a ton of fun.
It is.
It's the only reason why we get to do what we do.
That's right.
If you weren't watching, we wouldn't be talking.
Exactly. So happy New Year to all of you out there in the Variant Nation. We hope you have a very safe and happy one with you and yours.
Yes.
And we will see you bright and early.
Bright and early next year.
In 2022.
Where we talk about all things comics.